Excellent. Welcome to this pop-up. It's really nice to see all of you. My name, for those of you who don't know me, is Jan Clayton, um, and I'm sort of your host for today. It's nice. We've got some new faces here. We've got some uh, people who've been associated with the group for 20, 30, 40 years. Lovely to see all of you. Um, I'm doing this introduction just for those people who are new. The Julian Teachings Organization welcomes you to the Astrology of 2026 and beyond. This presentation is one of a number of pop-ups that we host each year, presented by the members of our organization, our community. The pop-ups that we do highlight the work of many of the June and Julian students who are themselves master metaphysicians. And if I can, let me tell you just a bit about our organization. The mission of Julian's teachings is to encourage spiritual development and increase the awareness of individuals by both enabling access to the rich and extensive metaphysical teachings of the late Reverend June K. Burke and the Seraph Julian. But our goal is not only to do that, to provide the accessibility to those teachings, but also to provide a structure for sharing metaphysical information and techniques and encourage all of our members, which are 500, 600, to share metaphysical information and techniques and to network together. Okay. Now on to the logistics of this presentation today. Our Denise and Camille, our presenters, would prefer not to take questions during the presentation. However, there's going to be a half an hour of questions after they finish their presentation. If you do have a question during the presentation, you can feel free to put it in the chat area, um, if you know how to do that. And we will be monitoring your questions. And if something is really urgent, we will find an opportune moment to interrupt the presentation to ask it. Um, and for those of you who need to leave right after the presentation done, feel free to do so. We are recording this presentation, and links to both the video and the audio recordings will be available typically within a couple days um, of probably by Monday, if not sooner. And if you receive the Julian Teachings Community e-blasts, um, you will get a link in your email to all the transcript, the links to the audio and video. Um, the links will also be available at the julianteachings.com website under resources, pop-up resources. If neither of these options works well for you, please put your email address in the chat area and I will send you the links when they're available. And so now it's my pleasure to introduce our two wonderful speakers for today, Camille Albrecht and Denise Hall. Camille has over 40 years of experience as a professional astrologer and tarot practitioner, Kabbalist, and a channel for master teachers, angels, and guides. Her work includes connecting with loved ones in the inner planes and offering insights into life after death. She provides both private and group sessions and teaches the June Julian self-development and practical magus classes, along with courses in astrology, the tarot, and other subjects. And Camille serves as the president of Julian Teachings Incorporated. Denise has been involved in the Julian community also for over 40 years, both a student and a teacher. She's completed the transition energies and mystical magus studies with Julian and Sam Holland. And she continues to study with Sam right now, um, doing the Pathways courses and the Ancient Magus courses. And with Saul Swerer, studying self-development. Denise is a Reiki master and an astrologer. And she's now been teaching astrology classes for, well, several years, 3 years or something at this point. So we welcome them both. And let's get you started. So I'm going to spotlight Camille here. There we go, Camille. Let me bring up the presentation.
Thank you, Jan. Well, hello and welcome to you all. We are so glad you're here today. Denise and I have lots of information we want to share with you about these remarkable planetary changes that are happening. And our greatest challenge in putting this together was to try to figure out how to take this vast amount of information and present it in a concise way. Um, we could spend all day talking with you about what's currently going on, but we're going to spare you that. And I want you to know that consolidating all this into 1 hour was no easy feat. But let's begin. Why do we look at planetary movements? If you could go to the next slide, Jan. It's because astrology is a predictive tool that has withstood the test of time. Astrology has been around for 25,000 years or so because it works. What the planets do, the planets in our solar system deliver universal energies that prod us and push us to grow. We're here on Earth to evolve. Well, why do we evolve? We evolve because those planets deliver universal energies that motivate us to make the changes that we're meant to make. Now, those of you who have attended our workshops in the past know that what's going on right now is really remarkable and uncommon. Three major evolutionary cycles are shifting. We've never experienced this before in all of our manifestation, all of our times of manifestation. Underway, we have a round change, an age change, and an earth change. Let's begin with the round change. And if you could go to the next
Yeah,
slide,
I'm sorry.
that's okay. That's all right. In wisdom teachings, evolution unfolds in 7 vast stages called rounds. Now, each round lasts billions of years and marks major leaps in consciousness. In the beginning, which on this chart would be above the 1 and the 7, in the beginning, we were all one. And then what this explosion, what some call the Big Bang, is when individual souls were created. We were made manifest. That would have been round 1. And again, these last eons of time. From round 1 through round 3, we existed in the light body. It was during this time that we learned how to use our senses, we learned how to communicate, and we learned how to interact with our environment. Well, then, if you look down at that red, the 4th round, this is where we're at now. In the times of Lemuria, we were vacillating between the 3rd and the 4th round. What that means is we were vacillating from the light body to the 4th round. The 4th round is the physical world. This is where we're at now. It's our present state of being. But prior to that, we were able to come and go at will. Now we're fully ensconced in the 4th round, and humanity primarily identifies with this physical existence, physical reality. Well, what's really of profound significance right now is that this is shifting. We're moving from the 4th to the 5th round. We're beginning our ascent home. And what that means is we have more access to the light body. You know, in times past, if you were psychic, it was because your mom was psychic, grandma was psychic, and it was passed down genetically. Now that's not important. Everyone has access to the other side if they take the time and the energy to work with it. You have greater access to your higher selves. You have greater access to all things of the inner plane. Because, as said, we're on our way home, carrying with us all the wisdom and experience we've gained along the way. Now, the next major cycle is the age change. Each age lasts about 26,000 years, or I'm sorry, 2,600 years. And over the past few decades, we've moved from the Piscean age into the Aquarian age. Pisces emphasized that God lived outside of us. We had to go through a priest or a rabbi or a minister in order to access God. It was an era that was shaped by themes of sacrifice, martyrdom, and often this feeling of I'm not worthy, mea culpa. Aquarius shifts that perspective. It teaches that the divine lives within us. We're not separate. We are one with the divine. God is, I am, and we are one. And in fact, we are co-creators. And what's so, I think is so cool about this is that as we move into this higher frequency, lower vibrations like fear and hatred simply cannot exist. Just like ice melts in the sun, they dissolve in the presence of this greater light, this higher frequency, this higher vibration, making way for the age of enlightenment and peace. Now, the next cycle unfolding is the earth change. This occurs about every 3,000 years or so. And what happens is Earth undergoes upheavals in order to reestablish and replenish itself. That's why we're seeing so much dramatic landscape and climate change. While humanity functions by intellect and reason, nature is the wiser by intuition. Nature is going to do exactly what it needs to do to perpetuate itself. And we can either help or hinder that process. Things are accelerating now. You're going to hear us talk about unprecedented change over and over again because there's so much that's never happened before going on now. And the next is that four major planets shift signs in roughly 1 year. This is extraordinarily rare. In fact, astrologers have never seen so many slow-moving planets change signs so rapidly. Pluto moved from Capricorn into Aquarius, Neptune from Pisces into Aries, Uranus from Taurus into Gemini just last week, or just earlier this week, and Saturn from Pisces into Aries. So you see, this is a time of incredible change. We want to break it down a little bit. So you've got this backdrop, really almost this tidal wave of these three huge cycles shifting. And then you have these four titans changing signs. And what that means when they change signs is they change their expression. And we'll take a look at that. Denise and I are going to talk about that today. Pluto moved into Aquarius in November of 2024. It'll be there until January 2044, so it's there for about 20 years. Pluto is called the Lord of the Underworld. It operates, in my opinion, it operates just like a volcano. Why? Because it brings up what's been rumbling, what's been hidden below the surface. It brings it up and out into the open, often with incredible intensity. So it exposes poisons, weaknesses, that which is repressed. And just like a volcanic eruption, Pluto transits can appear to devastate the land. It's like you're living in a moonscape. What you've known is gone. However, with this eruption, this volcanic soil also brings up lots of new nutrients. So the same thing happens with the Pluto transit. You have access to strengths and potentials you didn't even know you had. So through this disruption comes new growth. The whole essence of Pluto is death and rebirth, and with that, transformation. So we know Pluto transforms. I want to walk you through how Pluto has transformed our society. We're going to stick with pretty much the United States here, if my apologies, um, since the 1970s. So Pluto was in Libra in the 70s. Libra rules relationships. Pluto's transit through Libra transformed them. Divorce became more accepted and more women entered the workforce. Now, these changes were highly disruptive and highly controversial at the time. But what they did is they created this transformation of relationships as those relationships shifted towards greater equality and personal fulfillment. In the 80s, Pluto moved into Scorpio. Scorpio rules sex and sexuality and death. Now we've got AIDS, which associated sex with death, very much in Pluto's domain. While issues like sexual abuse, sexual harassment all are brought to the surface and come into public awareness. Not that they weren't happening before, but we became more conscious of them. And at the same time, sexuality becomes more visible in the media, prompting both a greater openness, but also greater regulation. Now, next, Pluto goes into into Sagittarius. Sagittarius rules religion and our belief system, spirituality. Pluto in Sagittarius exposed a great deal of corruption within some prominent organized religions. Think Jimmy Swaggart, think Jim Baker, even the Catholic Church, among others. And as a result, many people walked away from their churches. They walked away from their religions. And they moved towards a more personal spirituality. This whole idea of I'm spiritual, not religious. Then in 2008, Pluto enters Capricorn, and the focus shifts to transformation of structures, government, institutions, systems of authority. It began with the housing crisis that exposed deep instability. And since then, we've seen ongoing challenges to our political and economic systems worldwide. And their transformation is going to take some time to actualize. Now Pluto has entered into Aquarius, where it's going to remain for the next 2 decades. And here we can expect transformation around those things of Aquarius: technology, communication, and collective power. So we're going to find we are having a shift away from control by the few toward empowerment of the many. Now, Pluto's moved into Aquarius. Let's take a look at what the energy of Aquarius is. Aquarius rules streams of new thought. It's a fixed air sign associated with new and unusual ideas. Its key phrase is, I know. It governs rebellion, along with innovation, advanced technology, and the future. Everything that's progressive, unconventional, and forward thinking. It also rules the collective. In contrast to Capricorn's focus on tradition, structure, limitation, we're going to see this movement towards Aquarius emphasis on youth, freedom, all that's new. Now, its shadow side can manifest as rigid opinions, this emotional indifference, this aloofness, and a know-it-all attitude. Let's take a look at what Pluto did in Aquarius the last time. That was 248 years ago. It was in Aquarius the last time from 1778 until 1798. We look to, and this is what we astrologers do when we're predicting what a planet's impact is going to be. We look to see what it's done in the past and look for themes that are going to continue. So what did it do in the past? Well, a couple of major events happened. We saw freedom, rights, equality fought for and gained. Major revolution took place. The French Revolution, which abolished the monarchy over time. We had the American Revolution that established independence from Britain, forming the United States. We had the creation of the US Constitution and the Bill of Rights, which were created to secure some real basic freedoms. Aquarius is an air sign. So this period marked breakthroughs in movement and thought, both ruled by air. It's the first time air travel began. And that was when the first hot air balloon was launched. It also altered our worldview. In 1781, Uranus was discovered, and that broke old boundaries in what we knew about our solar system. And then the last time Pluto was in Aquarius, back in the 1500s, Copernicus discovered that it wasn't Earth that was the center of our solar system. It was the sun. Well, this was highly controversial, but it resulted in a scientific breakthrough. So Pluto in Aquarius transforms the collective and dramatically shifts our worldview. We've got it happening now. Pluto moved into Aquarius in November of 2024. It'll be there until January of 2044. What can we expect? What can we expect this time around? Well, tremendous advancements in technology. AI is going to gain in sophistication beyond our imagination. I mean, we're already seeing it grow exponentially into its input in our lives. We can expect major advancements in genetic engineering, in medicine in general. We're moving from Pluto in an earth sign to Pluto in an air sign. So we're going to see our battles shift from physical contact on the ground on earth to technologically driven warfare in air. We'll also see energy sourced from air rather than the earth. And because Aquarius rules innovation, we can expect groundbreaking energy sources are going to be discovered. Because of this collective energy of Aquarius, we're going to see a movement from me consciousness to we consciousness. As I've said for many years, we can expect global conscious contact with our galactic family. And I'm very interested to hear what Greer came up with over these last few days. This contact, the conscious global contact, is going to dramatically change our worldview and impact our technology. With technology advancing so rapidly, we've got to have our ethics keep pace. One of the things Julian talked about quite a bit was that these times are parallel to those times in Atlantis. Well, in Atlantis, ethics didn't keep pace with technology and destruction ensued. We don't have to have that happen this time. All right, let's take a look at the planet Uranus. Uranus was in Gemini briefly last year, and then it retrograded back into Taurus. Earlier, just this week, it re-entered Gemini, and it'll be there until May of 2033. Uranus is known as the Great Awakener. It brings sudden, unexpected change. It often results in freedom from something. Sometimes wanted freedom, sometimes not. Freedom from a job, freedom from the current home we're living in. And that's why I chose the Tower card from the Tarot to represent Uranus. Here, you take a look at that lightning bolt that's coming from the heavens. And it's driving out the old rulers who are, falling from the tower. Making it, and is soon going to destroy that existing structure. And that's what Uranus does. Uranus destroys existing patterns, making way for the new. Yet, as shocking as it is, that lightning bolt is coming from the heavens. This destruction is part of the divine plan, as something new is meant to unfold. Now, Uranus is also associated with technology, science, creativity. It encourages original solutions and unconventional ideas. You see with this, this lightning bolt coming in, you see these aha moments. The light bulb goes on. You see things a whole new way. Sudden, unexpected insights. Uranus also rules rebellion and independence. So here we've got this structure, and either the universe is going to shake up the existing structure or the rebels will. Either way, Uranus pushes us to challenge the status quo and support social progress and community-minded thinking. So Uranus has moved into Gemini just this week. Gemini is a mutable air sign with that rules the conscious mind, communication, and travel. Its key phrase is I think, and its symbol is the twins. At its best, Gemini is curious, they're social, they're adaptable, they're communicative, playful, eager to explore ideas, eager to share ideas. Their shadow expression can become indecisive, inconsistent, restless, and scattered. What we see with Uranus and Gemini in the past, Uranus and Gemini in the past, I divided it into two main categories. This fight for freedom and great innovation. Now, this is going to sort of smack of what we just talked about with Pluto and Aquarius, and that's because Uranus rules Aquarius. So you're going to see some very similar themes between Uranus and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius. And those themes are undertones of rebellion for freedom and innovation. So, rebellion for freedom. Again, we had the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, Declaration of Independence was signed, and World War II. Innovations. I was really surprised to see all the innovations that happened with Uranus and Gemini. The transatlantic cable was laid. Well, I wasn't sure what the impact of that was, so I looked it up, and it was the first time that the Americas were able to communicate with Europe really relatively quickly. And so what it did, it completely changed business between the two and changed diplomacy. And it was the beginning of global communication networks that we have today. So remember, Uranus and Gemini also deals with innovations in terms of communication and travel. So we had the birth of the printing press. Think of how education was changed as a result of that. U.S. Post Office completely altered our communication. The telescope changing our worldview. The steam engine changing transportation. Phonograph and computers. Uranus re-entered Gemini earlier this week. It's going to be there until May of 2033. So, again, looking at what it did in the past, we sort of surmise a little bit about what it's going to do this time around, and we can expect sweeping revolution once again and bold innovation, especially in terms of communication, travel, technology, and social thought. Prepare for groundbreaking changes in how we communicate. Artificial intelligence will redefine how we communicate, how we think, how we act. And there will be others. Expect major advancements in science, in medicine, education, and technology. Anticipate social rebellion and activism is going to increase with a focus on equality and freedom. And on a personal level, what you can expect is a profound shift in how you view the world, in how you communicate. And perhaps because Gemini deals with education, you may find there's a strong desire to learn something new or perhaps teach something new. So, in a nutshell, Uranus and Gemini signal significant upheaval followed by freedom, innovation, and awakening to the new. Now, one of the benefits of now, Pluto and Uranus have not always gotten along. In fact, in prior classes, I've talked about when they were square and how incredibly stressful that was. We went through hell and back, back in the not that long ago. But now these two titans are aligned in a powerful trine. What that means is this is a really rare period where their energies are cooperating together. Now, the transit lasts for 6 years, from 2024 through 2030, but it's exact or much more intense between July of 25 and July of 28, right where we're at now. So, what do we expect here? With these two working together, Pluto ruling volcanic upheaval, bringing up weaknesses, bringing up strengths, Uranus, that is this shocking revelations with new ideas, new freedoms, we can expect lasting change that grows from the courage to transform. Lasting change from the courage to transform. You are never more able to change your life than you are now. You have the most powerful planets of all at your disposal. On a global level, we're going to see transformation in government, in technology, and collective empowerment. In your personal life, This transit is going to free you. Think about that tower card. It's going to free you from limiting behaviors, beliefs, and relationships. But it's also going to give you access to potentials you either didn't know you had or didn't have the opportunity to use, along with this incredible courage, creativity, and the ability to make lasting change to better your life. So, this is a time where you can make bold changes in your life and bold changes that'll stick. Denise, I'm going to turn it over to you. Denise, you're muted.
Oh, can't hear you, Denise.
There we go. Okay. How's that? Everybody hear me? Okay, good.
Yes.
Thanks. All right. Well, I just wanted to say thanks to Camille. That was really a lot of information, but a lot of powerful. It makes me hopeful. Um, so I want to talk about Neptune next, and it's moved into the sign of Aries. Now, we got a taste of this energy last spring when Neptune went into Aries for a brief period, and then it went retrograde over the summer, went back into Pisces, and then in January it re-entered Aries. And now it's going to remain there until March of 2039. It takes about 14 years to transit each sign. So this is really a major shift. Let's explore this change, starting with discussing the core energy of Neptune itself. Neptune's known as the great dissolver because it breaks down boundaries, it loosens the grip of the ego, and it merges us with something much larger than ourselves. This planet governs inspiration and creativity and all forms of artistic expression. Music and film, dance, painting, and poetry, just to name a few. It also heightens our intuition and makes us more sensitive to subtle energies and inner guidance. Being the planet of spirituality and mysticism, it connects us to a sense of oneness and higher purpose. Neptune also brings compassion and empathy and a more forgiving, heart-centered way of relating to others. Neptune rules our dreams, our imagination, and the subconscious, as well as themes of healing and spiritual purification. On the challenging side, it can blur reality, lead to confusion, illusion, or even addiction. So Neptune's really a two-edged sword. It works both ways. It can elevate us spiritually to our highest expression, or it can pull us into escapism. Too much TV, too much any ways that we can escape. Fantasy, video games. There's many, many ways that we can escape our reality. So let's look at the qualities associated with the sign of Aries. Aries is a cardinal fire sign. Its key phrase is, I am. As a cardinal sign, it marks the beginning of a new season, our springtime, and carries that energy of initiation and leadership and forward movement. Aries energy is courageous and bold. It's passionate, action-oriented, likes to move quickly. It's direct and focused and determined with a strong sense of independence and natural optimism. When out of balance, that same fire energy can come across as impulsive, impatient, aggressive, or quick-tempered. So now let's look at what we can expect with Neptune in the sign of Aries. So when Neptune moves through Aries, there's this noticeable push towards spiritual awakening and self-discovery. People start exploring new ideas and new beliefs and new ways of seeing this world. There's also a big wave of creative inspiration. It's not just about imagining things, it's about actually wanting to bring those visions to life and express them, especially through art or creative outlets. So be aware this combination can be a bit tricky because Neptune's dreamy idealism mixed with this Aries impulsive energy can lead to exciting breakthroughs, but also a few missteps if we're not staying grounded. This energy will also support technological advancements in the arts, such as enhanced virtual reality and immersive creative experiences. So this transit's really about finding the balance between vision and action. Taking that inspiration and turning it into something real, both for your own personal growth as well as for the collective. So let's shift gears and talk about another significant change with the planet Saturn. As of this past February, Saturn entered Aries, where it's going to remain until April of 2028. So now we have Saturn and Neptune both in Aries. And this past month was kind of unprecedented because there were like 10 bodies in the heavens, all in Aries at one time. So we got this huge impetus this spring of this Aries, let's get it done kind of energy. Saturn's often called the great teacher and manifester because she gives birth in the physical world to our thoughts, words, and actions. When an astrologer looks at your chart, Saturn's one of the first influences they examine because it shows what's being activated in your everyday life. While Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus reflect deeper foundational energies, Saturn reveals how those energies take form in practical reality. Saturn's also associated with karma and the law of cause and effect. It's the force that helps turn ideas into tangible results. For example, if you intend to manifest something in your life, Saturn is what helps that intention become real in the physical world in its proper time. Because Saturn limits, gives us structure, and defines, it also teaches us patience, responsibility, and about timing. So in this sense, Saturn is the great teacher. We reap what we sow, and we learn through the consequences of our choices, our actions, and our attitudes. Saturn gives us the lessons we need in order to grow in wisdom and maturity. So the next slide shows, again, the repeat of Aries the Ram. I'm not going to go into all the details. We just heard about that when we were talking about Neptune. So that same energy with Aries applies to Saturn being in Aries. So let's look at the combination. Saturn in Aries. Saturn is in Aries from this past February through April of 2028. So it's a quicker cycle, 2 to 3 years typically, because Saturn is closer to the sun and moves faster in its orbit. It's about turning these bold starts into sustainable action with a strong emphasis on responsibility and leadership and personal accountability. Aries wants to really act fast, and Saturn says, wait a minute. It asks for patience, planning, and follow through. Impulse is not enough. Our choices need intention, structure, and staying power. As I mentioned, the key words for Aries is I am, as it rules our individuality. So Saturn here can reshape confidence and self-image and how we assert ourselves. We're supported with a greater sense of self-discipline. So it's the perfect opportunity to focus on starting a new fitness routine, improving our health. It's a really strong period for accomplishing long-term goals and personal mastery. Saturn reminds us to stay mindful of Aries' shadow side, things like ego, arrogance, and impulsive aggression. That deeper lesson is about transforming those raw, reactive tendencies into something more conscious. It guides us towards greater inner balance and a stronger sense of unity with those around us. So let's shift gears again and talk about the lunar nodes that are changing signs. The lunar nodes will change signs into Aquarius and Leo at the end of July. Now, first, let me explain what the nodes are and how they operate, and then we can look at their influence in these particular signs. So you may ask, what are lunar nodes? Well, they're not planets. They're two physical points where the moon's orbit crosses the sun's path, which is known as the ecliptic. So these are calculated points that move through the entire zodiac in an 18 to 19-year cycle. And it spends about a year and a half in each sign, or I should say signs, because they're always opposite each other in pairs. So in modern astrology, nodes are often seen as part of the soul's journey or karmic path. And again, there's always two. You have the north node and opposite it, the south node. So in our birth chart, they point to our personal path of growth in this lifetime. Together, they form a kind of life axis. The south node reflects patterns and traits that we're already familiar with and have overdone in the past. While the north node shows where we're being encouraged to grow and stretch, where we're headed. And so what signs they're placed in gives us clues about what that journey looks like. On that personal level, your nodes tell the story of your individual soul's journey. But in today's sky, the placement of the lunar nodes speaks to the collective, highlighting the direction of all mankind's evolutionary path. So with the north node changing sign, or excuse me, with the lunar nodes changing signs, the north node moves into Aquarius and the south node will move into Leo in July. It marks a collective shift with our new focus towards community, innovation, and a shared sense of purpose. So you can really see everything Camille talked about headed that direction with the Aquarian energy. This really supports that as well. We're being invited here to connect with others, contribute to something larger than ourselves, and bring our unique ideas and gifts into group settings that support the greater good. At the same time, the South Node in Leo highlights patterns we're ready to move beyond, like the need for personal recognition, approval, or being at the center of attention. So it's about releasing the ego-driven expression and balancing that with a more group-focused, collaborative approach. This nodal cycle is about moving from how do I shine to how do we evolve together? And how can we bring our authentic gifts into something larger than ourselves? Camille, I turn it back to you.
Denise, that was wonderful. Thank you. Great
Thank you.
information. A lot of information you provided in a short amount of time. So let's wrap this up a little bit. Let's summarize what we've talked about. We've presented a lot of information about two very different energies. We've got the Aquarian energy that deals with group thought, collective power, rebellion for change, innovation. And then we've got this Aries energy and Neptune and Saturn in Aries that is inspiration meeting action. We have this illumination, this light bulb going off, insights happening, and this incredible fire igniting us to act. So, what does all this mean? 2026, 2027 doesn't whisper change, it ignites it. These are really fiery currents. And it awakens within us courage, momentum, and a hunger for what's next. You know, a lot of changes took place over the last 5 years, okay, since COVID, a lot of changes. And there were a lot of endings that took place. And what's happening now, what's happened all, fall and winter, has been this reshifting, adjusting to the changes, and sort of figuring out where we go from here. Now, quite recently, as Denise talked about, these Aries energies just happened over the last month. Saturn moved in February, but these are quite new. So this is a bold call to step forward with conviction and claim new territory. You're here to write a new chapter in your life, to move forward. The past is over. The question is, what do you want to do now in your life? Where do you want to go? You have all kinds of universal support to give you the courage, the insight, and the motivation you need to do it. It's a time of writing yourself a new chapter. Now, one of the things that happens with this is, you're going to form a new path. You're going to go on a new path. That path may not be really clear. You may not know where it's going. But with Neptune's intuition helping, this is saying trust. Be willing to trust your instincts before that path is fully visible. And trust it's going to unfold in time. So we're moving from this me to we consciousness. Yet, the focus of that Aries energy this year and next, primarily, that Denise spoke about, signals a time for us to really get ourselves together. What do we need to do to restabilize, to walk this new path? So the focus is on nourishing the self so that we can enter this collective in Aquarius with a sense of well-being and wholeness. What's emerging now isn't meant to be managed from a distance, off in the sidelines, or simply observed. We're meant to actively engage, actively participate in these incredible, unprecedented times of change. The invitation is clear. Go forward. Create your new life. Be courageous. This is a time for bold action. Be willing to create the new in your life. Denise?
Well, with so many changes unfolding, it's more important than ever to remain grounded in trust, acceptance, and flexibility. And above all else, remember that when you align yourself with the divine within, anything is possible. Believe in possibilities. I love this image. It reflects exactly what I envision in every healing meditation. An image of us united, creating a future of light. I think it beautifully symbolizes our role as light bearers, sharing positive, balancing, healing energy with the world and the universe. It's a great reflection of the purpose and path of our community. I feel blessed to be a part of it. So here's our contact information. If you'd like to contact us individually, feel free. And for about the next half hour, we'd like to open the floor to questions. Please feel free to stay or leave as you need in your schedule. And know that this full presentation, including the Q&A, will be emailed to everyone who received the Zoom link. Jan, I turn it back to you.
There we go. I'm unmuted finally. Feel free to, you can, I think everybody is now can show up and you can ask questions by unmuting yourself, or you can put things in the chat and we will monitor the chat. Anybody?
I'll ask a question.
Sure.
Surprise. Um, um, so you talk about this new age, right, that we're going into, and when we look back on the Piscean age, we see how it began with Jesus Christ, and now it's this, right? Do you have any insights or visions of what it could be like in 2000 years?
Denise, you want to take that or shall I?
Well, I think we can both chime in. My perspective is that, this age of Aquarius is ruled by polarities, and we're seeing the polarities really activated, especially in the media. We're seeing so much negative focus. But just know that there's a balance of the light, there's a balance of the positive going on that the media doesn't focus on so much. And that our goal as humanity is to take that to a point of balance. 2,600 years, I believe we'll reach a period of peace on the planet, that there'll be a higher vibration, a greater level of consciousness, vibration, are returning to that fifth dimension, going towards the light body. So, mankind's evolution and all those Aquarian traits, this is basically a period where that's our focus. Get back to the collective. And, we chose to incarnate right now. It's a very important time of change in mankind's evolution, and we're here to help. And it's really special that we all are here together right now, supporting each other and the planet and mankind's growth as well as our own. So, yeah, it's hard not to get torn down, but I think the long term is headed towards that point of balance and peace and joy and a greater expression of mankind. I do think that we're going to expand into our galactic family as well, and there's going to be a huge amount of shift with technology and possibilities we haven't even imagined. So, Camille, what would you say?
Well said, Denise. And I
Thank
think
you.
I go back to what Julian said. He said that in this new age, hatred will not be tolerated. Hatred will either self-destruct, be destroyed, or nature will intervene. And I liken it to that ice cube analogy. It simply cannot exist. So how we can benefit, or I'm sorry, how we can support this is by removing hatred from us.
Mm,
And, and you've seen, I'm sure, the veil has lifted between ourselves and others, where you're seeing people and you're seeing their true colors. And that's a part of moving towards a period of brotherhood and sisterhood, which is what the Aquarian age is about, you need to know who you can share your inner self with and who you can't, right? And so I'm sure you've found that this is a time where community is going to matter, peace, understanding our responsibility towards being co-creators. I always say it's like God has handed us the car keys, right? And said, now be really careful, but you're driving the bus now. Other question.
Right.
I'm curious, how many of you are seeing something new evolve in your life, something different from a year ago? Just a raise of hands.
Big
That's
time.
pretty amazing, isn't it? You know, and you look at all these shifts, it's because that the past is things have changed. And it can be, we can be a little shaky at the knees, right? But it's time to move forward. Anne, did you have a question?
I would make a comment if no one else precedes me regarding Mary Ellen's question. Uh, I'll say it Christically, Buddhically, Judaically, universal mastery. That's where I'll put it. Might it be that if mastery has always is a core of creation, and so whatever roles mastery will bring forth, will play, what have you, will remain as mastery. It would be perhaps the titles or the images or the icons or what have you that we've previously associated with these unprecedented periods of time that you've presented to us today. Simply that maybe we're too identified with what that looks like. I can speak for myself in that. I'm trying to not be so identified with the image per se or the title of something, but what is the energy that represents mastery universally throughout these epochs of time. If that's helpful, Mary Ellen, and your answers, Camille and Denise, were very helpful for that. Thank you.
I'd like to throw
Thank you,
something
Paul.
else
Yeah,
out.
wonderful.
Another point that Julian made is that these evolutionary changes that Denise and I are talking about, they're going to happen regardless of what you think about them. And Julian has said, you're coming home. You're moving towards this. You're either going to come kicking and screaming or you're going to move willingly, but we're all returning to the light body. I
Yeah.
found that very encouraging.
I did too.
May I make a comment?
Of course.
A couple of things really stand out to me. In terms of the change from a year ago, what I'm experiencing now is just I planted a garden and I didn't see anything at all in where I put the seeds in till recently, nothing. Because it was, and I think of Aries, but I now see a tiny little sprout coming up. So the whole thing about Saturn and timing, and then the new identification, new embodiment. That's just an image that comes to me in terms of your question. The other thing that really pulls on me is the return to the kind of a redo of our experience in Atlantis, where there was destruction from too much unbalanced Aquarian energy. So for this time to learn, when I heard you say to learn the responsibility of our actions, and I think of the nodes and I think of Leo and the lack of hard energy in Aquarius, that there was something said in your presentation that I really wanted to focus on. One of the influences that we're going through for me to ground with how to come from a heart-centered perspective in order to enter the collective. I feel like there's where a huge balance is being called for. So thank you for listening to me.
That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
Yeah, good point.
I
And
mean, I was in Atlantis, so it's like, get it right this time. Bring the heart into it.
Hmm.
Well, one of my
I'm
one of my
sorry.
favorite mottos is it's an inside job, you know, and that sums it up really well. It's like you got to start here and then and take it out from there. And part of that nodal story is really I forgot to mention, but work on our own stuff first and then join the collective with that, with all of our positive energy and love. Absolutely. Good job. Thanks.
I have noticed an astounding change in myself of being less cocksure and quick to have my point of view and an ability to have more a different perspective in terms of relating to people. And it's still a little confusing to me, but I'm really happy to feel that impulse coming through of a pause before speaking and more compassion, a different way. They're different than I am. It's amazing, but they are.
Absolutely.
I have a general question to all the teachers here. Anybody want to jump in? One of my big challenges is learning how to be balanced. I'm very enthusiastic. You can see it in my chart. And so I have to ring myself in sometimes. And so I want to ask the question, how do you know when you're out of balance, when you've gone outside where you should be going, out of boundaries? So it's something I struggle with,
That
creating divine things, but being in balance, but also I have a tendency towards being an activist, all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure everybody can benefit from this question.
I'd like to answer that because I'm going to go back to what Julian said. He said, when you feel lousy, okay, when you're not feeling right within yourself, you're out of balance. Simple,
Mhm.
right there.
I can say how I personally feel, and I don't know if there's anything educational wise to back me, but I feel it's like the thought even pops in my head. I feel out of balance. Something's not right. Something's incongruous. Like you said, I don't, not in a sick way. I don't feel quite well in a mental, emotional type way. Something's off. And that's when I need to go into a meditation or go for a walk, actually, um, and kind of come together. And that's just how I feel. That's my personal feeling of when I'm out of balance. And it's happened a lot this past year.
I just like to add 2 cents. If you have any doubts about whether you're in balance or not before you take action, just take 3 deep breaths and then go
Right.
forward.
Yes. When I was working as a nurse practitioner, if I was in a room with a patient and I felt something wasn't quite right in what we're communicating or what was going on, I'd say, "Excuse me a minute, I just need to check on something." And I'd go, or if things were tumbling in a not productive way, I'd go into my office, close the door, and do just what you said, Denise. Take 3 deep breaths, but mentally, visually in my head, I would think of pressing the reset button and take the 3 deep breaths and walk back out. And it was amazing. It seemed to really reset things.
I could really relate to Mary Ellen's question and what the conversation is going. I've been feeling so like everything is coming at me at one time and feeling the need to center, but I've got this has to get done, this has to get done, and
Mm-hmm.
it just feels very overloading, and yet I need to get, inner centered when all this has to get done and there's no time for like me to go inside because all this has to get done, all this has to get done for me to take time for me. So I don't know if it's something as going with our astrology or it's in the air or what is it? The AI comet or whatever they call that thing.
Well, Cindy, if I could respond, astrology kind of provides 50% of the impetus with the energies that we're feeling, but the other 50% is us and how do we react. And we have been in a really intense period of Aries energy, which is that get up and fire and get it done, get it done. And that's this month there's been like 10 heavenly bodies in the sign of Aries. It's kind of unprecedented that it all kind of came together. Now many of them move quickly and they've already gone into Taurus and are moving beyond that. But we still have some significant things happening with this Aries energy. We're still in that spring impetus, right? And so with our training, it's up to us individually really to take those deep breaths, to spend a few minutes meditating when you feel overwhelmed, and to recognize when, sometimes our lesson is what do I need to have a boundary around? Where do I need to let go of something or delegate it to somebody else so that I can stay in a balanced state too?
Well, I wish it could be as easy as that, but it's like
Not easy, but
yeah,
it's
but
something we're called to
it's
do.
apartment and getting rid of like years worth of clothing in a mountain closet. And nobody can do it but me. And like there's mountains of bags that have to go to the Goodwill. And there's still like my apartment is bags of clothing that I have to go through. It's and then I have the contest for Hay House Publishing is June 5th. Is the deadline. And I joined this $500 membership to enter these contests. This is my year. Like
Cindy,
everything has to be, and then and then I have to rely on myself to get the insurance to okay an epidural because my PR, what do you call it? What do you call it? Physical therapy office
Cindy,
is not doing their job. They're just sitting around not doing their job. So I like I can't even meditate because I feel like everything else has to get done. There's no time for me. It's like that song, What About Us? Well, it feels like, what about me?
something here that
Can I say something?
let me just finish up this just for a
I'm sorry. Okay.
Huggins and I just finished transcribing a class of Julian's called The Power of Prayer. And one of the things, it's not meditation, Cindy, it's not spending 20 minutes inside, it's taking 1 minute. And maybe it's when you brush your teeth, so you remember, and you say, God be with me today. That's it. God be with me today. What Julian reminded us, you aren't alone. You have friends in high places.
Mm-hmm.
All you have to do is call on divine assistance. That's what they're there for, but they're very polite and they won't come in uninvited because we have free will.
That's a great reminder because I just wake up and say, thank you, God, for another day and the Lord's Prayer and the Serenity Prayer. But I have not asked that question. Guides, come in and help. Well, how did you phrase it?
However you phrase it, Cindy, is
No,
fine.
I like the way you phrased it.
God be, God be with me today.
Okay.
And Fran, did you have a comment?
Get me through this mess.
I have another question. Surprise, surprise. Do you want it?
Yeah.
Of course, Mary Ellen.
Of course, Mary Ellen, I love you.
You talked about the North Node in Aquarius, and the South Node is where right now?
Brain
Denise?
feed. Hold on.
Leo.
It's happening in July, actually. The South Node is in Leo.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So that's our past. We've been in control, right? But we're going into like the North Node in Aquarius is where we're going. Is that right? Can you talk more about those, please?
Camille, could you take that? I think the presentation kind of covered what I could say about it. Basically, let's see here.
I'd be happy to. You know, just
Yeah, thank you.
when you look at the energy of Leo and when you look at the South Node, it's where we've overdone things, right? And in the energy of Leo, it's a lot of self-aggrandizement. You know, look at me, look at me, look at me. And the Aquarian energy talks about group focus. It's not just what's good for me, it's what's good for the whole. But don't confuse that with this idea of self-esteem and a sense of self-worth, because we can't go back to the Pisces, I am not worthy. You know, you are a co-creator with the divine. You are a divine child of God with divine rights of your own. So we stand up, shoulders back, head up, and we take responsibility for our life. It's not my parents' fault I'm this way. It's not my neighbor's fault I'm this way. I take responsibility for me. So we move away from Leo ego, but not self-empowerment of using our will to create the life we want. We take the good of Leo, move it into Aquarius to say, now what's good for the whole. But I'm coming in whole with my self-esteem, with my acknowledgement that I'm a co-creator. Make sense?
Yes, but we're joining the group. We're collaborating together, right? That's what it
Correct.
means.
But you've got to collaborate from a space of wholeness, not from a space that needs one more place that needs healing. That's why this Aries energy says, take time to nourish yourself, get your act together, get self-love, understand your power and bring that to the collective.
13 years ago, Akau presented us with uh, many lessons. The primary one that I've retained, and I've thanked Camille sincerely, and I will again, because the R word was given over and over, that we must learn to take responsibility for our lives. And without that ingredient, for lack of a better word, or value, we will not be able to apply that which we are being given today as it relates to what has happened, what is present, and what is now. It is our responsibility, but that we have the help that both of our presenters have repeatedly reminded us of today. We have this universal divine celestial help. Thank you for a marvelous, marvelous body of work, which I will work with. We'll
Yeah.
see it.
Has anybody ever noticed that what's going on in the outside world relates to what's going on with themselves? I have. Like the inner is connected to like a bigger framework in the outer world. It it's it
Yeah.
seems like it's a mirror.
It totally is. Yeah. As above, so below, as within, so
Yeah.
without. Yeah. So one of the other things that I've really noticed helps when I'm feeling totally stressed out and have too much on my plate is if I say, I have enough time. I have enough time. You just and turn that into a belief, because
Good one, Denise.
what we focus on is what we create, right? And so if you're focused on the stress and not having enough time, you get more of that. If you change it and shift your perspective, I have enough time, it's gonna come together gracefully and easily. You just start imaging that every day and bring it into the souls and the cells of your being and it works. It what you
Yes.
focus on is what you create.
I love that, Denise. That is so good. I'm taking note.
Good job.
Create your own reality. So that's another one to create. Because that's a favorite mantra of mine. I don't have enough time. So now I'm going to create. I do have enough time.
I have enough time.
Great one. Yeah. Thanks for that.
What
That
I've
was
noticed
awesome.
is that I control what I focus on, and I've changed it so that it handles my balance problem. And I make sure that I meditate every day, that I pray and I'm thankful. And I make the list of gratitude every day.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
that
it
one.
has to be my main priority. And that's how I align with my higher self and stay balanced.
Thank you, Mary Ellen and Cindy. Any other questions?
Thank you.
On
Thank
any,
you. Thank you, Camille and Denise, for this great day
Welcome.
and bringing us all together and all these fun, familiar faces.
well, I hope we left you today with great hope and trust in the future. That, we're moving to a space of collective power, peace, and enlightenment. And that's our future. And as Julian has said, that the future is a good one. Of that there is no doubt.
That's right.
And so we shall believe. Or start it as of right now. Because that's another one that requires work.
Are we done, Camille and Denise? Any last words or anything else?
Well, I think if there's any last questions, otherwise we can wrap up. Is there anything else?
I'd like to thank you all for doing this. I appreciate it. It was very enlightening for me.
Thank you, Donna.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. And
Thank
you everyone
you
for
all.
contributing.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks for bringing us
Thank
all
you.
together.
And thank
Thank
you all
you.
for attending, taking the time out of your busy schedules. So,
And you too
thank you.
for
That's
doing
right.
that.
And Teresa, I just saw you. Nice to see you.
Good to see you,
Taking the time
Camille.
to